The year 1917 marked a turning point in Russian history, a time when the Romanov dynasty, which had ruled for over 3 centuries, crumbled under the weight of its own inadequacies. Russia, a vast empire stretching from Europe to the Pacific, was a land of stark contrasts, where a privileged elite lived in opulence while the majority of the population, the peasantry, toiled in poverty. The seeds of revolution were sown by the growing discontent among the working class and peasants, fueled by economic hardship, social inequality, and the Tsar's autocratic rule. World War I proved to be the final nail in the coffin for the Tsarist regime. The war exposed the weaknesses of the Russian army and administration, leading to catastrophic losses on the battlefield and widespread suffering on the home front. As the war dragged on, breadlines grew longer, prices soared, and the people's patience wore thin. In February 1917, a series of strikes and demonstrations erupted in Petrograd, the capital of Russia. These protests, initially sparked by food shortages, quickly escalated into a full-blown revolution, fueled by the people's anger and frustration with the Tsar's inability to address their grievances. The Tsar, Nicholas II, abdicated, ending centuries of Romanov rule and ushering in a new era of uncertainty and upheaval. The February Revolution, as it came to be known, was a spontaneous uprising, a testament to the power of the people united against an oppressive regime. It led to the formation of a provisional government composed of liberal and moderate socialist leaders, who promised to establish a democratic republic in Russia. However, this period of relative peace and optimism proved to be short-lived, as a new force was emerging on the political stage: the Bolsheviks, led by the charismatic and ruthless Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks, a radical socialist party, recognized the opportunity presented by the chaos and instability that followed the February Revolution. They promised peace, land and bread, a slogan that resonated deeply with the war-weary, land-hungry, and starving Russian populace. Under Lenin's leadership, the Bolsheviks skillfully exploited the weaknesses of the provisional government, portraying it as ineffective and out of touch with the needs of the people. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by Leon Trotsky, staged a coup d'état, seizing control of key government buildings and communication centers in Petrograd. The provisional government, lacking popular support and paralyzed by internal divisions, collapsed with little resistance. The Bolsheviks, now in control of the capital, quickly consolidated their power, establishing the world's first communist state. The Bolshevik victory triggered a bloody civil war that raged across the former Russian Empire for the next 5 years. The Reds, or Bolsheviks, fought against the Whites, a loose coalition of anti-Bolshevik forces for control of the country. The Civil War was a brutal conflict, marked by atrocities committed by both sides. Finally, in 1922, the Red Army emerged victorious, crushing the last vestiges of white resistance. The Russian Empire, forged by centuries of Tsarist expansion, was no more. In its place, the Bolsheviks established the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, a vast federation of republics based on the principles of Marxism-Leninism. The USSR, with its red flag bearing the hammer and sickle, was born out of revolution and bloodshed, poised to become a major player on the world stage. Following Lenin's death in 1924, a power struggle erupted within the Bolshevik Party, with Joseph Stalin, a ruthless and ambitious Georgian revolutionary, eventually emerging as the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union. Stalin's rise to power marked a dark turn in Soviet history, ushering in an era of totalitarian rule, forced industrialization, and brutal repression. Central to Stalin's vision for the Soviet Union was rapid industrialization, transforming the predominantly agrarian society into a modern industrial powerhouse capable of competing with the capitalist West. To achieve this goal, Stalin implemented a series of 5-year plans, which set ambitious targets for industrial production and forced the collectivization of agriculture. Collectivization, the forcible consolidation of individual peasant farms into large, state-controlled collective farms, or kolkhozes, was a catastrophic policy that resulted in widespread famine, particularly in Ukraine, where millions perished from starvation. The brutal methods employed during collectivization, including the deportation of millions of peasants, broke the back of the Russian peasantry and left deep scars on the Soviet countryside. Fear became a defining feature of Stalin's reign. The Great Purge, a period of intense political repression from 1936 to 1938, saw millions of Soviet citizens, party members, intellectuals, artists, military officers and ordinary citizens arrested, imprisoned, executed or sent to labor camps or gulags on trumped-up charges of treason, espionage or sabotage. The purges, fueled by Stalin's paranoia and his desire to eliminate any potential rivals or dissent, decimated the ranks of the Communist Party and instilled a climate of fear and suspicion that permeated Soviet society. In 1939, the world watched in horror as Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, unleashed the dogs of war upon Europe. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression pact signed between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union in 1939, bought the Soviet Union valuable time to strengthen its defenses. However, the pact proved to be a short-lived agreement, as Hitler, driven by his insatiable territorial ambitions and his ideological hatred of communism, betrayed Stalin and launched a surprise attack on the Soviet Union in June 1941. The German invasion, Operation Barbarossa, caught the Soviet Union off guard. Despite the purges of the 1930s which had weakened the Red Army, the Soviet people rallied to defend their homeland, waging a scorched earth policy as they retreated eastward, destroying anything that could be of use to the advancing German forces. The Battle of Stalingrad, a brutal 6-month siege that raged from August 1942 to February 1943, marked a turning point in the war. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad, achieved at a staggering cost in human lives, shattered the myth of German invincibility and sapped the strength of the Wehrmacht. From that point onward, the Red Army slowly but surely pushed the Germans back, liberating Eastern Europe from Nazi occupation and eventually reaching Berlin, the heart of the Third Reich, in April 1945. The Soviet Union emerged from World War II as a victorious but devastated nation. The war had left an indelible mark on the Soviet psyche, with an estimated 27 million Soviet citizens, soldiers and civilians alike, perishing in the conflict. The Soviet Union's sacrifices in World War II earned it a place at the table of victorious Allied powers and transformed the country into a global superpower, one that would rival the United States for dominance in the post-war era.